Hello. So, this is now part 2. And the part 2 is quite exciting. But don't worry, remember this is about how Andrew becomes a knight, so you know it's going to end well. But it is quite exciting. So, Andrew peered out from this basement room, and everybody had gone. And he and the girl came out, and Andrew said to her, "What's your name?" She said, "My name's Gwen." "And what's going on? Who are those people? Why are they chasing you?" said Andrew, who was very excited and rather scared. And Gwen said, "It was my father and my brothers." She sighed. "You see, a long time ago there was a knight called Sir Godfrey, and my father needed some help. He had no money to pay. Sir Godfrey said, 'Well, when you have a daughter, I will come and collect her to marry her when she's 14 years old. And today's my 14th birthday, and Godfrey's coming to get me, and I just didn't want to go, so I ran away. And that was them chasing me.'" So Andrew said, "That's an awful story." So then he had a plan. "I'll tell you what. I will go to your house, and I will have a word with your fathers and your brothers, and I'll see if we can find some way to have Godfrey, for him not to have to take you away. But," he said, "in the meantime, you go upstairs and stay in my flat. My mum and dad are up there, and you stay with them. And where do you live?" And she said, "I live in the tower block called Wingle." So Andrew knew where Wingle was. So Gwen went upstairs to his flat, and Andrew went off to the address that Gwen had given him in the tower block Wingle. So as he walked there, he started to feel a little bit more nervous, and he thought, "What am I actually going to say?" It seemed like a good idea at the time, but the more he thought about it, the less convinced he was that he even knew what he was going to do. How does he actually talk to Godfrey and persuade him that he doesn't need to take Gwen away, especially if it's a deal that's been made a long time ago? Anyway, he got to the Wingle Tower, and he took the lift up to the 8th floor, and the doors opened, and he stood outside. He was just about to knock on the door and say it, when he suddenly became aware that somebody was behind him. He turned around, and there was this tall man. He had a black hat and a long black cloak. And he looked like he had quite a kind face, though he hadn't shaved. He had a bit of a beard just here and a bit of stubble across there. He was looking a bit tired. And he looked down at Andrew, and he looked back at the door and knocked on the door. And the door opened by this rather fat fellow. First person he looked at was Andrew, and he said, "Oh!" Looked a bit surprised, and then he looked up and saw this other. "Godfrey," he said. Oh, you'd better come in." So Godfrey walked in the door, and Andrew went with him. And Godfrey paced around the living room, looked in the bedroom, and said, "Where is she? I've come for Gwen. She is mine. That was the deal." And the fat fellow said, "We've looked everywhere for her, but she's run away. We can't find her." "You better find her," said Godfrey. And that was the point at which Andrew said, "I know where she is." And everybody stared. "You do?" said both the fat fellow and Sir Godfrey. "Take us to her." "Well, you see, the thing is, she's very safe, but I thought perhaps—" At that point, he was suddenly grabbed by the back of his neck and pulled out onto the stairs by Sir Godfrey, and 3 of them, Sir Godfrey, the fat fellow, who he assumed was her father, and Andrew, got in the lift and went downstairs. "Where do you live, boy?" shouted Sir Godfrey as the lift went down. I live in the Thingle Tower." "Ah, Wingle wasn't too far from Thingle." Strange names these tower blocks have, by the way. "Right, we'll go and talk to your parents." And of course that was exactly where Gwen was. He didn't want them to go there at all, but it was too late. He was being dragged, kicking and screaming, along the street, off to the Thingle Tower. And he got to the bottom of the Thingle Tower, where of course the door had been kicked in. They were just about to go inside when suddenly there was a "Andrew, what on earth are you doing?" And everybody stopped, and a car pulled up next to them, and an extremely furious woman got out. This extremely furious woman was Andrew's head teacher, who, of course, if you remember, Andrew was supposed to go in early and turn on all the heating and all the power and all the lights in the school, and he hadn't. And she said to him, "Right, boy, you're coming with me." She looked up at Sir Godfrey, she looked up at the father and said, "Yes, you got a problem with that?" They went, "No." So Andrew got in the head teacher's car, and off they went to the school. And that's where this episode of the story ends.